We often think of language as a way to transfer information. Words pass meaning from my mind to yours. But in philosophical investigations, Ludwig Wittgenstein, one of the 20th century's most influential philosophers, invites us to see language quite differently. He asks us not to get lost in abstract thinking, but to look closely at our everyday experience. I'm Rich Watkins from Let's Go, and Philosophical Investigations has stuck with me since I first studied it in 2009. The book is curious because instead of a linear argument, it weaves together vignettes, reflections, thought experiments, and images that overlap, twist around, and offer new angles on each other. Now, the structure and texture itself reflects Wittgenstein's view of language. It is not clean concepts, but a living, tangled web. So any attempt to summarize the book conceptually undoes its magic. So instead, I want to offer you 5 powerful pictures from the book and see what they might reveal. Picture 1 is language as an ancient city. Wittgenstein writes, "Our language can be seen as an ancient city, a maze of little streets and squares, of old and new houses, and of houses with additions from various periods, and this surrounded by a multitude of new boroughs with straight, regular streets and uniform houses." Language isn't a tool here for transferring information, it's where we live. It's alive, layered with history, full of different neighbourhoods that might be formal or unconventional. You can't explain a city. A generalization would miss the specifics that make it vibrant. Cities aren't static, they're lived in, and our living in them changes them. So maps and guidebooks can only ever be provisional and partial. You have to explore. And so it is for Wittgenstein with language. It follows history and convention, not rules, and we don't understand it, but learn to navigate by becoming familiar with the parts that matter to us. And this picture of living inside of language means it's not like other things we look at. We are inside it. He says, the aspect of things that are most important to us are hidden because of their simplicity and familiarity. One is unable to notice something because it is always before one's eyes. He also challenges philosophers who want to construct abstract concepts as if everyday language wasn't clear enough for them. Everyday language is where we live. So moving away from it to Wittgenstein is both absurd and more likely to confuse than to clarify. Picture 2. Language as games we play. Wittgenstein's most repeated image is language as a series of games. Language isn't one thing, it's a multitude of different language games, each with its own conventions and patterns. So catch, chess, tennis, ring-a-ring-a-roses, each game is played for its own sake with its own rules and meanings, and so with language games. So the phrase, "Can you help me?" has different meanings and different texture in the language game medical emergency, or the language game flirting, or the language game selling. Each language game is woven into an activity or a form of life. And just as chess moves only make sense in chess, an oath only makes sense in particular forms of life, like a court of law. And there are other forms of life where it doesn't make sense, like a job interview. So how many language games are there? Countless, says Wittgenstein. New types of language, new language games, as we may say, come into existence and others become obsolete and get forgotten. In each language game, we're doing something that matters in the world, not just passing meaning from mouth to ear. So therefore, he writes, for a large class of cases, though not for all, in which we employ the word meaning, it can be defined thus. The meaning of a word is its use in the language. Meaning isn't something hidden behind words, it's how words are used in a context to do something. So language isn't something private or interior, it doesn't live in the head, it's embedded in our social life. It is public knowledge. Picture 3. Language as family resemblance. Wittgenstein challenges the idea that language is governed by strict definitions. He writes, "Consider, for example, the proceedings that we call games. I mean board games, card games, ball games, Olympic games, and so on. What is common to them all? Now, don't say there must be something common or they wouldn't all be called games, but look and see whether there is anything common. You won't see something that is common to all, but you'll see similarities, relationships, and a whole series of them at that. Just as family members share overlapping features that help us recognize them, so, for Wittgenstein, do the concepts we use. And here he's talking about games, but see how justice on a football pitch has a family resemblance to justice in the court of law and justice in a turf war. There isn't a single essence, but a network of similarities lets us recognize it when we see it. Picture 4. Language as a woven thread. This picture helps us see how language has continuity without an essence. Let's imagine a new conversation about justice, maybe justice for AI models. Now, this might stretch our sense of what justice means. And this is how concepts expand. As when we are spinning a thread, we twist fibre on fibre, and the strength of the thread does not reside in the fact that there is one fibre that runs through its whole length, but in the overlapping of many fibres. We can, of course, impose rigid limits on any concept. We could say, these are games and these aren't games. But that would only be for a particular purpose, like policing the playground. Language itself always leaves the boundaries open. There can always be new kinds of games, new kinds of justice, and it doesn't mean there's no continuity, but it does mean we won't learn the meaning of words by definitions, but by seeing everyday example. Things like this are game, things like this aren't games, things like this are justice, things like this aren't justice. We will recognize similarities, and this will help us hold on to the threads. Picture 5. Philosophy as escaping the fly bottle. Wittgenstein says philosophical problems are not knowing our way about, like a fly trapped in a fly bottle, which is a kind of trap that's easy to enter but hard to escape. Much philosophical talk is buzzing around exhausting ourselves. Endless explanations, specialist language, arguing over terms and generalized rules, all of which miss how language actually works and that we live inside language. He writes, one thinks that one is tracing the outline of the thing's nature over and over again, and one is merely tracing round the frame through which we are looking. A picture held us captive and we can't get outside it, for it lay in our language and language seemed to repeat it to us in a way we can't escape. So the aim of philosophy is to show the fly the way out of the fly bottle. The problems are solved not by giving new information, but by arranging what we have always known. Philosophy is a battle against the bewitchment of our intelligence by means of language. For Wittgenstein, good philosophy isn't theory but therapy, assembling reminders for a particular purpose, he says. We need ways of looking at things that clear things up. This is philosophy as therapeutic. It helps us find our way when we're stuck. So bringing all this together, Philosophical Investigations is a book packed full of pictures. We haven't even looked at pet beetles in boxes, lumps of cheese that change weight, or ducks that look like rabbits. But these 5 pictures stood out to me, and I think they add up to something. What we have here is a reminder that language is familiar. It always lives in particular language games that make sense because they relate to particular activities or forms of life. And we understand language by looking at examples and context. We don't have or need exact definitions because we recognize resemblances. Language has layers of history and convention. It evolves and changes like the fibers that make up a thread. Language is where we live and we can mostly find our way around. But we can and do get lost in this chaotic city. And philosophy is about helping us find our way when we're lost by reminding us of the obvious things we've forgotten, by clearing up our misuse of language, mostly by bringing us back to everyday speech and concrete examples. I work a lot with language. As a poet, I'm fascinated by what words can do, but also in my professional work at Let's Go with organizations, teams, and individuals. We talk about reinvigorating how we work for complex times, and often that means clearing up the complicated language that trips us up as we try and get things done. The cliches, the banalities, the jargon that have all become calcified and rigid that have us stuck in the fly bottle. I'm interested in bringing us back to plain speaking ways of finding our way. And that's true in leadership and collaboration, skill development, or shaping organizational narratives. I first encountered Wittgenstein in the classroom of Philippe Guterres from Berkeley. It was in the summer school, and this sparkling professor led me to some quite challenging texts that reshaped how I thought in some fundamental ways. In researching this video, I was saddened to learn of his death. He enriched my ideas and my pictures of the world. He helped me find my way out of a fly bottle or two. And maybe these 5 pictures provoke some practical reflections for you in your context. Picture 1 is language as an ancient city, a place we live. Whatever work you do, there will be different teams, industries, departments, cultures, and generations, and they could all be using words quite differently. So can we let go of arguments about who's right and who's wrong and instead explore these linguistic neighborhoods of the city? Picture 2 is language as games we play. Whatever we're doing, creating a vision, negotiating, building a relationship, the rules of the game change with the context. So let's not get trapped in one way of looking and speaking. Can we adapt more to the context? And that might help us strike the right notes. And also, can we help others adapt? Picture 3 is language as family resemblances. Don't expect rigid definitions for complex concepts. Instead, can we look for patterns and similarities in how they're actually used? Allowing some differences too, can we draw connections and get back to real-world examples rather than debates about terms? Picture 4 is language as a woven thread, how language and culture evolve over time. Continuity is there from overlapping practices and meanings, but can we welcome new ways of seeing things and recognize the value of tradition and shared history? Picture 5 is philosophy as escaping the fly bottle. Let's notice when people are getting stuck in abstract, circular debates. Refocus on practical examples, clarifying language, bringing discussions back to everyday realities. If we can help people find their way out of the fly bottle, this is a great service, and many problems dissolve when they're cleared up. Making this video, the image that I've fallen back in love with is language as an ancient city, language as where we live. Which of these 5 pictures sheds the most light for you? Okay, so I'm not super comfortable with the language game YouTube video endings, but like and subscribe to my incredible uplifting channel, and share the video with anyone who should be a Wittgenstein fanatic. See you in the comments.